March 1st, 2026, the USS Thomas Hudner cuts through the eastern Mediterranean at flank speed. Every light in the Combat Information Center is red, not because of a drill, because somewhere above the horizon, Iranian cruise missiles are already airborne, and the USS Gerald R. Ford, one of America's 2 carriers currently deployed to the Middle East war zone, is directly in their flight path. The air in that CIC smells like burnt wiring and adrenaline. The deck vibrates under boots that haven't left that compartment in 11 hours. Nobody speaks above a whisper. Every man and woman in that room knows exactly what's at stake. Not just the carrier, not just 5,000 American lives, but the entire strategic outcome of a war that the world is watching in real time. And here's what the news cameras will never show you. While the world sees an aircraft carrier launching FA-18s and B-2 bombers over Iran, what the world doesn't see is the destroyer beside it, the ship that has to intercept everything the enemy throws before it ever reaches that carrier. The ship that carries no glory, only responsibility. Because here's the brutal truth about the most powerful warships America has ever built. Without the destroyers running beside them, they don't survive the first night of a real war. Stay with me, because in about 5 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how close this current conflict has already come to testing that reality, and what the answer looked like when it did. Before we go any deeper, if you have a family member deployed right now, or if you've stood on the deck of a destroyer yourself, drop the name of that ship in the comments. USS Thomas Hudner, USS Cole, USS Bulkley, whatever ship carries meaning for your family, put it down there. This video is built for the people who know what those names actually mean. What you're about to see is not just military hardware. It is a living, breathing system being stress-tested right now in real waters against real missiles in a war that the most Americans are only half following on their phones. The destroyers are at the center of all of it. Let's start with what they are, why the carrier cannot survive without them, and how the whole shield actually works. America operates 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. Each one is a mobile airbase capable of launching 80 aircraft, projecting power across 1,000 miles of ocean, and reshaping the outcome of a conflict just by showing up. But here is what they don't teach in civics class. A carrier cannot defend itself, not against a modern missile salvo, not against a coordinated swarm attack. Its own close-in weapon systems, the last-ditch phalanx guns and rolling airframe missiles, are designed to handle the 1 or 2 threats that slip through everything else. They are not designed to stop a mass strike of 200 ballistic missiles. Iran knows this. China knows this. Russia knows this. And that knowledge is precisely why the destroyer exists. The Navy's answer to the carrier's vulnerability is called a Carrier Strike Group. Around that carrier, the Navy places 2 to 4 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers, an attack submarine running silently underneath, and a supply ship to keep the whole formation armed and fueled. The destroyers don't sit still. They move constantly, screening forward, repositioning based on threat direction, placing themselves between the incoming fire and the ship they are protecting. Right now, as of early 2026, 78 destroyers are active in the U.S. fleet. Each one displaces up to 9,700 tons. Each carries over 90 missiles, and each is built to fight 3 separate wars simultaneously: in the air against missiles and aircraft, on the surface against enemy ships, and below the waterline against submarines. The brain running all of it is called Aegis. Aegis is not a single weapon. It is a complete combat system. Radar, fire control computers, and vertical launch missiles all integrated into one automated kill chain. When a threat appears, Aegis detects it, classifies it, calculates an intercept solution, and presents targeting data to the crew in seconds. The radar powering Aegis is unlike anything in the civilian world. The AN/SPY-1 and the newer AN/SPY-6, now being fitted on the latest destroyers, doesn't spin. It has 4 fixed panels built directly into the ship's superstructure, firing electromagnetic beams in every direction at once.
Detection range exceeds 370 kilometers, more than 100 simultaneous targets tracked without breaking a sweat. When Iran launched over 200 ballistic missiles on October 1, 2024, toward Israel and toward American ships in the region, that radar didn't flinch. USS Bulkley and USS Cole acquired the threats, computed firing solutions, and launched 12 SM-3 and SM-6 interceptors. 12 missiles, 12 kills, in the dark, in hostile waters, with zero margin for error. And then the crews reloaded and kept watching the screen. Now, before we push into the current war and what's happening out there right now, let me ask you something real. What's the one meal you could never live without if you were at sea for months? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear from veterans especially. What kept you going on those long deployments? Here's the thing that should keep every American paying attention to what's happening in the Middle East right now. This is not a hypothetical. This is not a war game at the Naval War College. As of March 2026, 2 American aircraft carriers, the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald R. Ford, are actively deployed in the Middle East war zone. The Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea. The Ford is in the Mediterranean, positioned off the coast of Israel. Both are surrounded by guided missile destroyers. And Iran, which has already fired hundreds of missiles and drones in the past 18 months, is not done. The question military analysts are asking right now, behind closed doors, is a simple one. How many salvos can a destroyer absorb before its interceptor magazine runs dry? Because Iran has done the math, and the answer to that question determines whether America's most powerful warships survive the next escalation. What the Navy is doing about that right now, at this exact moment, is the most important naval story of the decade. Let's talk about what's actually happening out there, because this conflict has already stress-tested the destroyer shield in ways the public hasn't fully processed. Since late 2023, Houthi rebels in Yemen, armed, funded, and directed by Iran, have launched sustained missile and drone attacks against commercial shipping and American naval vessels in the Red Sea. The U.S. Navy response was immediate. Destroyers were surged to the region, and what followed was the most sustained naval combat the U.S. Navy has seen in decades. Night after night, destroyers intercepted incoming threats, cruise missiles, anti-ship ballistic missiles, one-way attack drones in swarms. The Aegis systems performed, the sailors performed, but the ammunition expenditure raised alarms in Washington that went far beyond what most people realized.
Each SM-2 interceptor costs roughly $2 million. An SM-3 costs over $10 million. A destroyer carries a finite number of them loaded into its Mk-41 vertical launch system cells. Once those cells are empty, that destroyer needs to return to port to reload. And reloading at sea under combat conditions is not a capability the Navy currently has for these weapons. That is the vulnerability Iran is deliberately probing. The strategy isn't to sink an American destroyer in one strike. The strategy is to force the destroyers to exhaust their interceptor inventory and then push the next wave through against the carrier behind them. The Navy knows this, and the response has been a full-court press on every level: tactical, technological, and doctrinal. Do you think you could handle 4-hour sleep shifts for 6 straight months while running combat intercept missions every other night? Leave that in the comments, because what these destroyer crews are living through right now in the Red Sea and the Mediterranean makes the peacetime deployment look like a vacation. On the tactical level, the destroyers operating in the current conflict have received rapid mid-deployment upgrades to their Aegis software. Lockheed Martin and the Navy pushed capability updates to ships in the Red Sea in early 2024, upgrades that in the old system would have taken weeks and required the ship to stand down from combat duty. Under the new virtualized Aegis architecture being tested on USS Winston Churchill, those same updates are now delivered in hours. The ship stays on station. The shield stays up. On the doctrinal level,
The Navy is learning hard lessons about how carrier strike groups position themselves in a multi-axis threat environment. The USS Gerald R. Ford Strike Group, now operating in the Mediterranean in direct support of the Israel-Iran conflict, has incorporated lessons from every previous Red Sea deployment. Each destroyer in that group now operates not just as an individual interceptor platform, but as a node in a shared kill web. That web has a name: Cooperative Engagement Capability, CEC. Every radar track from every ship in the strike group is shared across a secure data network in real time. One destroyer sees a low-flying cruise missile skimming the wave tops 40 miles out. Another destroyer, with a better firing angle, takes the shot. The missile never knew which ship was coming for it. In the current conflict, this network has been extended beyond just surface ships. American destroyers in the region are sharing targeting data with Israeli air defense systems, with land-based Patriot batteries, and with THAAD interceptors positioned across the region. The kill web has become regional. When Iran fires, it doesn't face one ship. It faces an integrated multi-domain defense architecture that stretches from the sea surface to the upper atmosphere. And now, the next layer of that architecture is being rushed into the fight.
The USS Preble successfully tested a directed energy weapon system, a high-powered laser called Helios, against a live cruise missile target in 2024. Not a simulated target, a real one. The laser defeated it. This matters enormously in the context of the current war, because directed energy weapons don't run out of ammunition. They run on electricity. As long as the ship's reactor is running, the laser can fire. Against drone swarms in particular, the Houthi and Iranian tactic of launching dozens of cheap one-way attack drones to overwhelm interceptors, a laser that costs essentially nothing per shot, changes the entire math of the engagement. The next-generation DDG-X destroyer, currently in development and planned for procurement in the early 2030s, will be built around this capability from the keel up. 14,500 tons, 96 vertical launch cells, a power plant specifically designed to sustain directed energy weapons in continuous combat operations. The Navy has requested $133 million in its 2026 budget just for DDG-X research and development. But the DDG-X is a decade away. Right now, tonight, it's the Arleigh Burkes folding the line. 300 sailors per ship, racks stacked 3 high in compartments with no windows, 4 hours of sleep if you're lucky, coffee that tastes like it was brewed in a diesel engine, and a combat information center where every alarm means a real threat in real water, aimed at real people who are counting on you to be faster and smarter than whatever just came over the horizon. On December 22, 2024, USS Gettysburg, a cruiser supporting USS Harry S. Truman, accidentally engaged a US FA-18 Super Hornet in a tragic friendly fire incident. Both aircrew ejected safely. The investigation continues. But that moment tells you more about the pressure these crews operate under than any training manual ever could. Hair-trigger weapon systems, saturated threat environments, ambiguous sensor returns, and the absolute unforgiving requirement to be right every single time. They carry that weight without complaint, because behind them is the carrier, and the carrier is coming home. Right now, as you watch this, there are American sailors standing watch in waters that have seen real combat in the last 90 days. They are not watching a movie about war. They are in one. The destroyers running alongside the Ford and the Lincoln in the current Middle East deployment are doing exactly what every Arleigh Burke before them was built to do. They are absorbing the threat. They are running the shield. They are making sure the carrier and every life aboard it gets to sail home. The carrier gets the headlines. The destroyer gets the job done. Which of these facts about the current deployment surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know what hit hardest for you today. And if this video gave you a deeper respect for the men and women standing those watches right now, please hit like and subscribe.
This research takes serious time to get right. Every subscriber tells us to keep these stories coming, because the sailors running those combat information centers tonight deserve to have people back home who understand what they're actually doing out there. The world sees a carrier. The enemy sees a destroyer first, and that destroyer doesn't blink.